Hi guys, it's Mishel, Deception Bytes, and it's August 7th, and it's 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm picking up from where we left off with the Q posts. I left off with yesterday's, and Q has indeed made a post today. Just one, but I think it's worth going over. So let's take a look at it. Now, Q here is referring to his post that he made yesterday about the bill that opened the door for Twitter, Facebook, Google, etc. to censor and control us. Us being those of us who are conservative, leaning right-wing leaning conservatives. Those are our views are being censored, and anybody that says they're not is not paying attention because it's pretty evident. Now, we did go over this bill here, and Q told us to think Russian bots, think foreign propaganda, the more you know, Q. And of course, we discussed the fact that what they do is when there are narratives that they don't agree with, for example, on Twitter, they just took to calling us all Russian bots. We must be Russian propaganda because we're saying something they don't like. And of course, they are gatekeepers to the truth. Not the real truth, but the truth that they want us to see. Very Orwellian. They decide what the truth is. And they are the gatekeepers of it. And they disseminate it at 4 a.m. to all of their journalists who basically take the story and spin it maybe a little bit differently, but it's all got the same stuff in it. And when the conservatives raise their voices, well, immediately we are foreign propaganda or Russian bots. Now, Q, referring to this post of his from yesterday, says, digest and understand. Foundation to support censorship against conservatives. This was the foundation that supported the censorship against conservatives. But he's leading us out to a post on Reddit, and I think you're all going to find this pretty interesting. So let's go. Now, here we've got this, and it's posted by You Smiley Dog. I love that name, You Smiley Dog. At Lisa May 62, here we go. HR 5181 was stuffed into the 2016 NDAA on 12/02/16. Basically, $160 million was set aside to pay alt media journalists, among others, to spread disinformation, to counter what they claim is fake news, aka the truth. Because we know if they, the left, are calling it fake news, that it's truth. If Trump or Q calls it fake news, it's fake news. This is why so many flipped on Q. Okay, well, this makes all sorts of things click into place in my brain, because I've been wondering why these people that seemed so dedicated to Q all of a sudden flipped. All sorts of people, and you know who they are. They've all of a sudden just flipped. And some of them claim that they've got hard and fast evidence that Q is a conspiracy or Q is a psyop or whatever, what have you. But come to find out, these alt media journalists were paid out of this $160 million to spread disinformation. Well, isn't that special? So now, not only do we have the mainstream media spreading fake news, but we also have the alt media that's in on it. Ouch. Seriously. So that's pretty major, really. So they're just so afraid of the message. They're so afraid of the message. They are willing to pay people to spread disinfo. Let that sink in. I'm telling you, it took a little bit for it to sink in with me because my mind was racing. And I was thinking of some of these people that started off pretty strong, like Jerome Corsi, who suddenly flipped. I'm not saying necessarily that he was paid to spread disinfo. I don't know. I don't know who these disinfo agents are. But it's interesting to think about. And here, Devil's Advocator says, so the mainstream media calls Trump a Russian puppet. Thereby, all pro-Trump comments are Russian bots. So the mainstream media gets to tap into a $160 million slush fund to fight the anti-Russian narrative that they created. That's exactly what's happening. Exactly what's happening. How dirty is this? Can you believe this is happening in the United States of America? Really? I mean, how Orwellian can it get? I'm actually afraid to even ask. I never, ever thought I would see this in America. Ever. Not ever. I mean, I knew that there was a bias. Yes, I think we've all known that there's a bias. But now, I don't think there's anybody that's paying attention, anyway, that can deny it. Oh, it's past a bias. They are out and out, fighting tooth and nail against any narrative that's not theirs. So, seeing as they are reduced to publishing clickbait to keep the lights on, is this really surprising? It's beautiful seeing journalists panic about their jobs. Must be hard to be part of a dying industry. Losing public trust, everyone thinks you are simply a fluffer for big business. And that indeed is what it is. And there are new journalists arising, but they're not like the old journalists. They're not. There's new journalists like, what's her name? Her last name, Laura Loomer. Is one that I can think about right off the bat. And I think the Chans are raising up people that are doing research and disseminating information for free or virtually for free. They're taking their time and they're disseminating, and a lot of people on YouTube as well. And I don't think any one voice is more important than another. I think all of our voices are important. So I think that that's what is happening. People are turning to places like YouTube, but increasingly YouTube, people are getting kicked off of there. You have to be very, very careful these days. So people are turning to whatever alternate sources they can to get information, because you can't trust the mainstream media. And now there are some alt media that you can't trust. So who do you trust? Trust somebody that doesn't have a dog in the fight, maybe. So if I could provide those losers, and he's speaking about the journalists that will be losing their jobs, with some advice, the same advice that they gave the Rust Belt folks when their jobs were leaving. It's a sectoral shift. New jobs will be created. You just need to reskill. Have you thought about learning how to program? And of course, it's easy for other people to say that to folks that are losing their jobs, but what are people going to say to these journalists when they lose their jobs? What are they going to do? Where are they going to work? I wouldn't, if I had an organization, I wouldn't want to hire journalists that had engaged in these practices. Would you? I wouldn't trust them again. I wouldn't trust their face again. There are certain faces that you see all the time on the mainstream media that I don't want to see ever again, because I know I associate their faces with lying and disinformation and propaganda. So I don't see these people as having a long future, because I think people will come to associate them, as they have already, and that is why the CNN's ratings have tanked. People are associating them with false news and propaganda. And it's not just because Trump is, dumping on them from time to time. You can't blame the guy. I mean, they just pick on Trump totally, continually. Doesn't matter what he does. It will never be good enough. And it's always going to be spinned and portrayed in a negative light. Always. So, yeah. So, alrighty, hang on. Let's go down here. Meanwhile, the Chans engage in real journalism for free, simply because the truth interests them, not for recognition or money, just because they want to know. There's a whole army of anons out there disseminating information, doing digging, a whole lot. And they're not getting the recognition. And they don't want the recognition. They want the truth to get out. And here, someone says, remember, no one who plays the game gets a free pass. And here's a game of Danks, very similar to Monsanto and Big Pharma relationship. And nice summation, this person says. They claim Mockingbird as being a conspiracy theory, and yet we see a bill funding a conspiracy theory. And again, this is why Q states these people are stupid. Good going, Lakota Pride. Good comment. And Dog Rock, whatever, says, ridiculous. I agree. Interesting to see that Chris Murphy of Connecticut was one of the two co-authors of H.R. 5181, affectionately referred to as the Ministry of Truth Act. And Ministry of Truth, of course, comes from where? Well, it comes from the book 1984, George Orwell. And again, if you haven't read that book or if you haven't read it lately, I would urge you to. If you're a reader, there's some people that just do not enjoy reading. They get their news either visually or they listen to their news, but they're not just, they don't enjoy reading, and that's fine. He just made a chillingly Orwellian twatter statement that InfoWars is the tip of a giant iceberg of hate and lies that uses sites like Facebook and YouTube to tear our nation apart. These companies must do more than take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it. No, sir. The survival of our democracy depends on free speech. That's what the survival of our democracy depends on. And I don't know what's happening to free speech, but it's dying a slow and painful death, and you can hear its death rattle. So I'm hoping that Trump is able to turn this around. I pray that Trump is able to turn this around because it's alarming. It's downright frightening that this is happening in our society, in the United States of America, supposedly the land of the free, the home of the brave. These companies must do more, he says. He's pushing for completely unaccountable Silicon Valley oligarchs to be given even more power to define what's acceptable speech and calling that necessary to democracy. Oh, no, that's not necessary to democracy. That's counter to democracy. It's the exact opposite of what they're calling it, which is what happened in the book 1984. The Ministry of Truth was actually the Ministry of Lies and Propaganda, but everything was backwards. So, and here Lakota Pride says should be called the Ministry of Propaganda. Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels would be so proud, Chris Murphy. Notice the same pattern. Destroy the truth with propaganda lies. It's from Orwell's 1984. The Ministry of Truth was both the propaganda arm and the intel agency that tortured people. War is peace. Ignorance is strength. Freedom is slavery. And those are straight from the book, because those were their slogans. War is peace. Ignorance is strength. Freedom is slavery. Now we add propaganda, lies, our truth. Right. We are. We're living in 1984. We are. We're living it. We are truly, truly living that novel. And it's frightening. And I'll tell you one thing, when they took Alex Jones off the air, and I don't know if he's off the air, I know he's off Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, I'm not sure. I know Apple has dropped his podcasts. I think that is alarming and should alarm every person in the United States, because if they can do it to him, they can do it to you. You know, all these people that say, oh, this should be censored and that should be censored. Well, you just understand that if we censor them, then we're liable to be censored as well, right? You can't do that. I mean, there's lots of people I don't agree with. I don't agree with Antifa. I don't agree with Black Lives Matter. But I will defend to the death their right to say what they want to say in a free and open society. In a democratic society, I'll defend their right to say it. You know why? Because if I don't defend their right to say what they want to say, even though I disagree with it, my right is going to be taken away to say what I want to say. And it is being taken away. And very little is being done, as far as I can see. Now, I don't understand. I don't understand how this is happening. And I don't know what is in place to stop it. But I'm very concerned. I'm concerned about the people that are just dropping out of view. It's like they just erased them. That's it. Don't like what you have to say. Bye-bye. Well, you know, the people that think that is okay are eventually going to be censored themselves. And what will they say then? It'll be a little too late then. It'll be a little too little and a little too late. So I don't know how to fight this. I don't know. And I'm hoping that Q will give us some guidance on this and tell us where we're headed here. Is this going to be corrected, or is this the new normal? I sure hope not. Now, this person says everyone needs to not only read but actually understand this book. 1984 is basically canon at this point. Edit. I would also recommend The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Yes, that is a fantastic book as well. Really, really well written and a good book. Just to focus on Ellsworth Toohey. You want to learn how the mainstream media, intel agencies wage their war and balance of power and perception utilizing the asleep mob? Rand illustrates this masterfully through Ellsworth Toohey and his use of superfluous foundations and think tanks. SPLC/ADL, anyone? And this person says it really is. Endless wars, erasing and rewriting history, constant bombardment by the mainstream media propaganda, arrests with no arraignment or charges brought and people disappear, state-sanctioned torture, enforced class caste system, 24/7 full-on spying video and audio without warrant on everyone. You get the idea. Yeah, we are living in that novel. We truly are. It's alarming. Alarming. Now, yes, I do believe that there are things being done, but I also worry because I don't see it happening fast enough. I see the conservative voices dropping one from right after another, and it's alarming because you know why they're doing this. They want to win the midterm elections, so they don't want the conservative voice to be heard. They want their message heard because they know that if their message doesn't get out, if they don't persuade the people to vote Democrat, they're done for. They know that. They're in their death throes. You can hear their death rattle locked in their throats. It's time for a purge. The founding fathers knew the greatest threat to our constitutional republic, not democracy, hence the Second Amendment. These people are pulling out all the stops. I am praying President Trump takes it down from the inside, so patriots don't have to from the outside. Yes, and excuse me, I had a kernel of popcorn stuck in my throat, and you're probably saying, oh, get out of here, because you know how Q is always saying, get the popcorn. But really, I was eating popcorn, and it's a nice low-cal snack. And I did get one stuck in my throat, and I've been having trouble ever since. Just a second here. All right. So, this is why it's taking time, hence our need to demonstrate patience and trust. The hashtag where we go one, we go all means we are all in this together. It's like we're all in the same boat, just like I was saying earlier in sort of an allegory, I guess. We're all in the same boat, and we need to start rowing in the same direction, or we're all going down. Different jobs for different people or groups, both the behind the scenes and visible working with the visible. Don't be impatient when you can't see the visible at work. Sessions is a perfect example, working his buns off behind the scene. Patriots need patience and keep working at digging, research, and red-pilling the peeps. Red-pilling the peeps. Hugely important that as many people are awake before the hammer falls. Make America great again. Where we go one, we go all. God bless us all. The rednecks and brothers are on standby. God put blacks and whites in this country together for a reason. Amen. Yes, that's true. That is right on. We're here together for a reason. Yes, it's awful. Slavery was absolutely deplorable and awful. It should never have existed. But the blacks are here. They have a purpose, like we have a purpose, and our purpose is the same. We're united. We're all Americans. Let's stop pulling against each other. This person says, damn right. I'm firmly in the bleachers, sitting center row of your choir. Preach on. Preach on, preacher, preach on. Wow, just wow. I do get the idea, and it's chilling. So they are all in on the blue wave, huh? I guess we have to be all in on truth, justice, the American way, and one heck of a red wave. P.S. How did they get to Clint Watts? He was such a promising young FBI agent. Blackmail? He didn't get the, hey, 9/11 is all coming out now memo. He went from coup shilling to censorship shilling on MSNBC. I'm not mad, just disappointed. Never forget that in DC and Hollywood that the currency is not money, it's blackmail. Now that indeed is true. And yeah, DC and Hollywood, it's the same, they work the same way. Now, this person is saying that this is a 3-hour documentary that's just outstanding, and it's called From JFK to 9/11. Now, I think that I'm not going to go out there because certainly I'm not going to play a 3-hour documentary. But if you want to Google don't use Google, use DuckDuckGo. From JFK to 9/11, the author of the documentary references George Orwell and ties it all together. It is just an outstanding documentary. I'm going to have to check that out, and I will check it out. And you guys might want to as well. It sounds interesting. This was very eye-opening when I first saw it, and still is upon the 4th rewatch. I went to link, and YouTube has some weird label that the content is offensive. You can still watch it, but can't like it or comment on it or anything. If this is downloadable, which is doubtful, it should be downloaded to preserve it, as it will likely be taken down sooner rather than later. Can't have too much truth out there, or the sheep will wander off, and the sheep herders will lose all control. Which is exactly what I want, what we need for the future generations to not live in a dystopian nightmare that Hollywood has been programming us for. We can be the change we've been waiting for. Yes, we can. And you know something? That is a good suggestion. If there are things that you particularly like online, about conspiracies or whatever, information, videos, whatever, that you think could possibly be taken down in the future, it's a good idea to download them. I have been doing that slowly. It does take up a lot of room. You can get an extra hard drive for very little money. You can get a terabyte worth of, an external hard drive. It's very easy to just store things on, because sooner or later these things are going to be banned. Hopefully, I'm hoping that things are corrected before it comes to that, but it wouldn't surprise me. And to tell you the truth, I would never think that this day would arrive, but I am actually wondering about how long it will be until they outlaw the Bible as hate speech. Possibly not long, the way things are going. We'll be watching right away. Gotta charge my headphones for my iPhone. Thanks for sharing this. I watched the whole 3 hours and it was riveting. So there you go. Other people are finding it riveting, so this might be a good idea. And again, it's called, where is the name? From JFK to 9/11. I myself am going to go watch that. Maybe not tonight, but I am going to watch it. Now let's see if there's any other little tidbits here, tasty little nuggets of information. HR 5181 was stuffed into the 2016 NDAA on 12/02 in regards to your statement of rewriting history. In what was a side off venture for me, I defended the name of the Washington Redskins the other day online and was asked for my sources, which I lost some time ago. Decided to go look for the info again, and I was appalled at what I found in the search results. Long gone was the true reports from the Indians themselves, and replaced was headlines stating completely false things about the term. My very first thought was that if they could change this info so much, what were they doing to everything else? Exactly. I found that myself. Even the Q posts, it used to be that you could just Google Q posts and it would come up, but not now. It does eventually come up, but it's way down there. So, yeah. I just recently got it to get my preteen to have better understanding of what is going on. Have him also read Animal Farm. Yes, that is another phenomenal book. Phenomenal. Not a long read, but it shows just how far society has been corrupted. Yeah, I would highly recommend that book as well. And there is another book that is also very, very good, and it's called Lord of the Flies. These are all literary books that you may have been forced to read at some point or another, but when you go back as an adult, and I did as a grad student, I went back and I visited some of these books that I was made to read in advanced English or what have you, and excuse me, I had a whole different perspective on it. A whole different perspective as an adult, and as a better educated adult than when I first read them. I had more experience and I had more education, and so they meant something totally different to me. So I would just advise that if you are so inclined. Both it and Brave New World. Now, Brave New World is again a very, very good book. And that's true. Brave New World is basically from the perspective of the elites, and 1984 is basically from the perspective of the masses. So, let's see if there's any other tasty little tidbits here. I always thought there was a smattering of A Clockwork Orange in all this as well. Gang violence, publicly dispensed drugs, government atrocities done for your own good, corruption from top to bottom of society. That is a very good observation as well. By Fishgut Martyr. You gotta love that name, Fishgut Martyr. So, yeah, and that's true. In the book 1984, their torture happens in the Ministry of Love. So you go to the Ministry of Love to be tortured, because They're torturing you because they love you. Who approves the funding? From HR 5181. Funding availability and limitations. All organizations that apply to receive funds under the subsection must undergo a vetting process in accordance with the relevant existing regulations to ensure their bona fide capability and experience and their compatibility with United States interests and objectives. Vetting process equals non-conservative outlets. Well, of course. That was their warning to us early on in Q. Q is our warning to them. It is over. They no longer control anything. I would like to think that was so. I really would. But if they don't control anything, then why is Alex Jones no longer on the, why is he no longer on these platforms? I think they do still control quite a bit. I think it's changing, but they haven't lost their control yet. And he says, gotta read 1984 to truly grasp this. I agree. Right now, we have to get Q's message out and let the people find the truth finally. The more truth is learned, the weaker they become. And that's true. That is true. Truth is their enemy. It's like, I think everybody's seen The Wizard of Oz. And when they throw water on the witch and she melts, she goes, I'm melting. Well, if you throw truth at the left, that's what they do. I'm melting. Seriously. So truth is their enemy. Truth is our friend. The media has been weaponized. On guard. Oh, yes, it has. Sound familiar? This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. Edit. Yes, I know it's a constitutional republic, but it's obvious the mainstream media wants us to believe otherwise. Mind control at its finest. We are a representative republic, not a democracy. That's why they use the term democracy. This enrages me too. Every time I hear it or think it, I think, tell a lie big enough and often enough, it becomes the truth. Hitler. Actually, that was not Hitler that said that. I believe it was George Goebbels, his propaganda minister, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be, but I'm pretty sure it was George Goebbels. We are not a democracy. Propaganda is not a matter for average minds, but rather a matter for practitioners. It's not supposed to be lovely or theoretically correct. I do not care if I give wonderful, aesthetically elegant speeches or speak so that women cry. The point of political speech is to persuade what we think right. I speak differently in the provinces than I do in Berlin. Goebbels. I don't feel no ways tired. Now, Hillary Clinton. Remember? Goebbels is here saying, you have to speak different ways in different places. And remember Hillary Clinton when she was somewhere in the South and she says, I don't feel no ways tired. Now, really? Is that how she speaks? But she was trying to appeal to the people there. Obama repeated, we are a democracy, so many times that people started parroting it back. The way to brainwash is repetition. Now we see how well it works, and it does. From U.S. Army Training Manual number 2000-25, published by the then War Department, Washington, D.C., November 30th, 1928. Democracy, a government of the masses. Authority derived through mass meeting or any other form of direct expression results in mobocracy. Attitude towards property is communistic, negating property rights. Attitude towards law is that the will of the majority shall regulate whether it is based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, and impulse without restraint or regard to consciousness, or consequences rather, results in demagogism, license, agitation, discontent, and anarchy. Republic. Authority is derived through the election by the people of public officials best fitted to represent them. Attitude towards law is the administration of justice in accordance with fixed principles and established evidence, with a strict regard to consequences. A greater number of citizens and extent of territory may be brought within its compass. avoids the dangerous extreme of either tyranny or mobocracy. How do you pronounce that? Mobocracy? Mobocracy. I don't know, but it's a hard word to get over your lips and tongue. Results in statesmanship, liberty, reason, justice, contentment, and progress. This is an excellent conversation here. Now, I don't think that it's, maybe, I don't think I'm going to go down through all of this. I think that we have got a very good idea of what Q is wanting us to see here. And this is something that you can look up yourself. It is on Reddit, r/Great Awakening. And I'm not sure how you would look this up, to tell you the truth. And it's got a very long, well, I guess just go to the Q post for yourself and click on the link, because it's a long link, and if I put it in the comments, it'll just get cut off. So click on it yourself, and you can go and you can read all this. It's very good reading, I think, and you don't need me to read it to you. That's for sure. So that's it for Q so far tonight. Now let's go back here though and finish the post. Here we go. So he wanted us to take a look at this, which we did, and he says all in, blue wave, midterms. Their entire future depends on winning majority in the House. Q. So now we know why they're fighting to the death. And they are fighting to the death. They need to have a winning majority in the House, or they're done for. So it's all about the midterms, and they're trying to get the conservative voices silenced before that time to at least give them a fighting chance, which I don't think they have regardless, because I think people are sick and tired of the crap. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's it for Q for tonight. It's now 10:23 Eastern Time, and there are no more Q posts tonight. There may be, though. We still have another hour and a half to go, so I'll keep my eyes open for more posts, but I think I will bring them to you tomorrow if there are additional posts, and of course I will cover tomorrow's post tomorrow. So I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I hope you sleep well and stay safe.